Have you ever found yourself in a situation where someone, seemingly charming and full of charisma, suddenly starts treating you like an object to be controlled? That feeling of being manipulated, or used as a hallmark of dealing with the narcissist. But what happens when their usual tactics, those emotional games they play to manipulate and control, stop working? What does it feel like for a narcissist when their power over you begins to unravel? How do they react? And more importantly, how can you maintain your strength and stay unaffected by their attempts to regain control? Understanding the psyche of a narcissist and how they function is the key to protecting yourself and standing your ground. Narcissists thrive on dominance, admiration, and control. These traits are at the core of their identity, driving their actions and shaping their relationships with others. But when they encounter someone who isn't affected by their manipulation, everything changes. The facade they've worked so hard to build starts to crumble. They can no longer rely on their typical strategies to keep people in line. Let's dive into how this process works, why it triggers such a strong reaction in narcissists, and how you can use this knowledge to remain untouchable when their power over you starts to fade. Narcissism, at its core, is a defense mechanism against deep-seated insecurities. Narcissists crave constant validation to maintain their fragile sense of self-worth. They project an image of superiority and demand admiration from others, often going to great lengths to ensure they're the center of attention. This need for validation is insatiable. No matter how much praise or admiration they receive, it's never enough. They seek to control others, not just emotionally, but often physically or psychologically, in order to reinforce their inflated sense of self-importance. At the heart of narcissism is a desperate fear of being unimportant, unnoticed, or, even worse, irrelevant. Their identity is so fragile that any threat to their perception of superiority, whether it's a slight, a rejection, or the failure of their manipulation tactics, can send them into a spiral of anxiety and rage. This is why when you stop playing along with their manipulative behavior, they can no longer feel in control. This is when the drama begins. Imagine you're interacting with someone who constantly plays mind games, seeking your attention and admiration at every turn. At first, you may feel flattered or intrigued, unaware of the underlying manipulation. But eventually, you start to notice the subtle tactics they employ to control your behavior, thoughts, and emotions. They gaslight you, make you doubt your perception of reality, and constantly shift the blame onto you for things that aren't your fault. What happens when you finally see through their games? When you become aware of their tactics and stop reacting to their emotional manipulation, everything changes. For the narcissist, this is a huge blow to their ego. They can no longer feed off of your emotional vulnerability or manipulate your feelings. In fact, it's as though they've lost their main source of supply, your admiration and attention. In this moment, the narcissist faces their biggest fear, losing control. They no longer have the power they once had over you, and they are forced to confront the reality that their usual tactics are ineffective. This realization can lead to a few different reactions. Some narcissists will try to double down, pushing harder to regain dominance over you. They may escalate their manipulative behaviors, becoming more aggressive in their attempts to control or belittle you. Others, feeling cornered, might retreat in frustration, unable to cope with your lack of emotional reaction to their games. Both of these responses are fueled by their need to regain control. However, the key to handling a narcissist's reaction is to remain grounded and clear-headed. The narcissist's reaction to losing control is often intense, because it forces them to confront something they cannot bear: their own inadequacies. Narcissists are driven by an inflated sense of self-importance, but beneath the surface, they are terrified of being exposed as weak or vulnerable. Their grandiosity is a defense against feelings of worthlessness, and when they can no longer manipulate those around them, their carefully constructed identity begins to crumble. This fear of exposure is often accompanied by a profound sense of shame. Narcissists cannot tolerate the idea that they are not superior, not in control, or not admired. Losing control over others is seen as a failure on their part, and this triggers an emotional response that can range from rage to despair. To avoid facing this, they may resort to extreme measures. When narcissists realize that their usual tricks no longer work, they will often escalate their tactics in an attempt to regain control. These may include 1. Gaslighting. Narcissists will distort reality, making you question your own perception of events. They might deny things they said or did, or accuse you of being overly sensitive or irrational. This is meant to confuse you and reassert their dominance. 2. Blame shifting. They might try to shift the blame for their behavior onto you. This can involve accusing you of being the one who started the conflict, or claiming that your actions provoked their outburst. By doing so, they avoid taking responsibility for their behavior and deflect attention from their manipulative tactics. 3. Slander and smear campaigns. If the narcissist feels betrayed or cornered, they may attempt to ruin your reputation by spreading lies or gossip about you. They want to make you appear untrustworthy or unreliable, hoping to turn others against you. 4. Playing the victim. In some cases, the narcissist will position themselves as the victim, even when they are the ones who caused harm. They may portray themselves as being misunderstood, mistreated, or wronged by you, in order to elicit sympathy from others. 5. Aggression or threats. When all else fails, narcissists may become physically or verbally aggressive. They may lash out at you or others, using intimidation or threats to regain a sense of power and control. 6. Withdrawal and silent treatment. Some narcissists may resort to withdrawing from the situation entirely. They may give you the silent treatment, hoping that by withdrawing affection or attention, you will chase after them and beg for their approval, thereby restoring their sense of superiority. While narcissists may be skilled at manipulating and controlling others, there is one type of person they fear most: someone who combines empathy with inner strength. These individuals are not easily fooled by the narcissist's charm, and they don't fall prey to the narcissist's emotional manipulation. They can see through the narcissist's act and recognize their harmful behaviors. What makes these individuals so powerful in the eyes of a narcissist is their ability to stand firm in their beliefs and protect their own emotional well-being. Unlike others who may tolerate the narcissist's toxic behavior out of fear or confusion, those with inner strength and empathy refuse to be manipulated. They stand up for themselves, confront the narcissist with clarity, and expose their lies and harmful actions. This disrupts the narcissist's sense of control and leaves them feeling vulnerable and exposed. For someone who thrives on dominance and manipulation, this is a terrifying experience. They are forced to confront the reality that they can no longer control you, and that their tactics have failed. Narcissists often target kind-hearted individuals, mistaking their compassion for weakness. They believe that kind people will tolerate their toxic behavior and continue to give them the attention and admiration they crave. However, what narcissists fail to understand is that kindness does not equate to passivity. When someone who is kind and empathetic becomes aware of the narcissist's manipulation and deception, the dynamic shifts. They no longer feel obligated to tolerate the narcissist's behavior. Armed with awareness and inner strength, they begin to confront the narcissist with the truth. This shift is unsettling for the narcissist, who can no longer rely on their usual tactics to control the situation. The key to handling a narcissist's manipulative behavior is to cultivate personal strength and establish clear, unwavering boundaries. Narcissists feed off emotional vulnerability, so the more you protect your emotions and sense of self-worth, the less power they have over you. The most effective defense against a narcissist's behavior is often to withdraw completely from their manipulations. By refusing to engage in their emotional games, you strip them of the tools they use to control others. This can be incredibly jarring for the narcissist, as it directly challenges their inflated self-image. In addition to emotional fortitude, it is essential to recognize the early warning signs of narcissistic manipulation. Once you become aware of their tactics, you can take steps to shield yourself from further harm. Maintaining a strong sense of self and keeping a clear perspective on the situation will help you stay untouchable. When a narcissist's power over you begins to fade, it's crucial to remain grounded and clear-headed. Recognizing their manipulative tactics and refusing to fall for their games is the first step toward reclaiming your sense of self. Narcissists thrive on control, but when they can no longer manipulate you, they are forced to confront their own vulnerabilities. By standing firm, setting boundaries, and protecting your emotional well-being, you can stay untouchable and regain control over your life. Remember, you are in control of your own power. By recognizing the narcissist's tactics and refusing to engage with their manipulation, you can protect yourself from their toxic influence. Stay strong and remain steadfast in your boundaries. You don't have to play their game. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where someone, seemingly charming and full of charisma, suddenly starts treating you like an object to be controlled? That feeling of being manipulated or used as a hallmark of dealing with the narcissist. But what happens when their usual tactics, those emotional games they play to manipulate and control, stop working? What does it feel like for a narcissist when their power over you begins to unravel? How do they react? And more importantly, how can you maintain your strength and stay unaffected by their attempts to regain control? Understanding the psyche of a narcissist and how they function is the key to protecting yourself and standing your ground. Narcissists thrive on dominance, admiration, and control. These traits are at the core of their identity, driving their actions and shaping their relationships with others. But when they encounter someone who isn't affected by their manipulation, everything changes. The facade they've worked so hard to build starts to crumble. They can no longer rely on their typical strategies to keep people in line.